I'm not looking Democrat or Republican, I'm looking people. I'm looking, well, you know, I went to a seminar one time when I was in the county, and good morning, everyone. On behalf of Mayor Pro Tem Green, oh, excuse me, Clark, he's still on my mind. He's still on my mind. Mayor Pro Tem Clark, my fellow commissioners, Manager Madrid, our city clerk Canton, I would like to welcome everybody and thank you for being here. This is the business meeting of Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019. It is now 9 a.m. I will now call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Whitehead.
Here.
Honorable Kathy Clark. Here. Honorable Rolf Heschler.
Present.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Here.
Honorable George Cicchetti.
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is silent meditation. I would like to ask each and every one of you to join me in 15 seconds of silent meditation, remembering that we are approaching Memorial Day, and to keep the members of our armed forces in your thoughts and prayers that have served our country and have lost their lives. Thank you. Commissioner Heschler, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item 4, the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
Mayor, I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion, and aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is item C, presentations. Our first presentation this morning is related to an update to the Parks Department improvements. O.J. Heschler, Parks Department Manager.
Morning, Mayor. Morning, Commissioners. Morning, Mr. Madrid. So this last year, it was an honor to be it was a privilege to be a part of the Phelps Field renovation. In 2018, the Luis Armijo Sports Complex B Field was officially renamed Phelps Field. In support of Phelps Field, a group of citizens donated a portion of the funds used for renovation. These funds, coupled with parks budget and other city resources, were utilized to upgrade the facility as seen today. So this here is a photo of the beginning of our project of 2018. You can see the backstop, the fence area, how it was in dire need of being replaced. The announcer's booth, the canopy, or the crow's nest we call it, you can see it's run down, and it was in need of renovation. So part of what we did this last year was we got the announcer stands painted, we got the canopies painted. They are painted red and gold. We were going after a southwestern theme here, the New Mexican flag, the colors. You'll see that the backstop is a 17-foot high fence, heavy gauge, chain link fencing, and then the canopies were painted. The 8-foot fence that goes out to the outside of the dugouts is all brand new. We did purchase 94 tons of Diamond Pro infield mix for the infield that is spread 3 inches thick, rolled and worked. The streets department helped with that. Thank you, Benny, and the streets department. They got their equipment in there and they helped us spread the material 3 inches thick. You'll see that it is reddish in color. That really helps the chalk lines for the Little League. It helps them stand out in the contrast. And then the new fencing around the backstop, which I talked about. Here's a picture taken from behind first base. And I wanted to include this picture. You'll see the dugouts were painted. the perimeter fencing, you'll see there's yellow polycap that we put along the outside, the perimeter fencing around the outfield. That's a decorative look, and it also is a safety feature for anybody reaching over the fence trying to catch a fly ball. They don't get snagged onto the chain link fencing. This here was a fence that previous years we didn't have out there. This fence is, I call it the outer inner fence. There's still the perimeter fence that goes around the outfield, but this fence is 200 feet from home plate. It was the Little League coordinators and Matt Phelps' wish to have a permanent fence installed there to make it a standard Little League size field. You'll see the foul ball poles, which were installed by the Parks Department. Again, the yellow polycap. What's neat about this fence as well is the banners that are placed on the fence, which they're Little League sponsors. In the past, they were hanging them on the crow's nest behind, or the backstop behind the crow's nest, and they looked cluttered. So that was one of the wishes. You'll also see, which one's the laser? Right there. This fence right here, it's not a very good picture of this fence, but in previous years, there was no fence dividing A field from Phelps field. So the balls that were overthrown on first base and foul balls would roll into the adjacent field. So that was one of the wishes as well from Matt Phelps and the Little League Association. Here's a photo of the other side of the announcer stand. You'll see the Phelps Field signs that we place out there. Again, you'll see it's painted, it's renovated, it looks nice. Right over here to the left, you'll see right here, this is a memorial that has been permanently placed out there in the late Rick Phelps' honor. So, and then here is a picture of the memorial headstone. May 9th, 2018, Phelps Field dedicated to Dr. Ricky D. Phelps. Dr. Rick was a tireless supporter of Sierra County youth baseball. He will be forever remembered. So I'd just like to say that it's been a privilege to be part of this project. I did know Dr. Phelps growing up. I went to school with Matt Phelps, so it was an honor and a privilege to be part of this. So, future upgrades over there at the Luis Armijo Sports Complex is more of the same. A field, which is the field right next to Phelps Field, the same thing. It needs fencing. It's long overdue. Also, we need to paint get the dugouts painted, the canopies painted. It needs new bleachers. We would like to bring in some more infield mix to help upgrade A field. And part of what I've been doing is coordinating with my rec board and also coordinating with the Little League Association on priorities. So we'll set priorities and we'll move forward with that. So that's really all I have on my presentation this morning. If there's any questions.
Thank you, OJ.
Sure.
Do we have any questions, commissioners? Manager Madrid, questions, comments?
Just one question, and we have some good news of another type.
Yes. So I'll go ahead and let Gary Whitehead speak real quick, and then I'll announce the good news and then open up for any questions. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Mayor, Commissioners. It's always a pleasure to be here and speak before you.
Thank
I'm going to speak now, and then he's going to give the good news and take my thunder away. Commissioners, I just wanted to be here to kind of bring my portion of the baseball project full circle. Again, as OJ expressed, it was humbling to be a part, and I do want to express that I was merely the spokesperson for a group of people in the community that got together and made contributions in honor of Dr. Phelps. And wanted to do a project of this magnitude and asked if I would, come before the commission and lead and carry on the project. So I'm really humbled that they asked me, and it was a pleasure to work with that group. I felt it was important to come back and let the commission know that some commitments were made by that group, that there would be some dollars invested. And in fact, we invested, the committee invested over $13,000 in this project. We paid just a little more than $3,000 for the painting that was done. We paid directly to that. And then working with OJ, we were able to come to a number to help support the fencing project, and we cashed back to the city via a check of about $9,800, I believe, that went back to the city coffers. So OJ was able to manage the project as a city project, and then we just kind of provided a grant back. And then we also, the committee purchased the headstone. So again, we committed to spending over $13,000+ on the project, and those dollars were in fact spent on the project. The committee couldn't be prouder of OJ. They really expressed that I let the commission know. He was just fantastic to work with. He understood the spirit. I mean, I think he expressed that to you today. He understood the spirit of the project. He took it on. They had a vision, and we allowed, the committee really said to he and Matt, you know, whatever it is you want to do, we want to see that happen. And so they really built a fantastic project there. I'll leave you today with encouragement to say each of you should drive down and walk around and look and understand that at the end of next year, you cannot leave the baseball fields 1/3 complete. You need to find a way to find a few more dollars and finish painting, because the paint is fantastic. It makes the place look good, and just a little more fencing. So if you can find a way to support the Parks Department and OJ, I think we'll have again, an A+ baseball facility there. And Matt indicated to me that they may be able to host a Little League tournament here if we could get it just that much better off. So your community stepped up, they did what they said, and again, it was an honor. And to OJ, we thank you. They wanted to make sure that you knew this, they felt like you led this project, and it came out exactly the way they would have wanted it done. So thank you. Commissioners, thank you for your time, and we again appreciate you honoring Dr. Phelps and his family.
Thank you, and we want to extend a big thank you to the Phelps family for having this opportunity to improve our ball fields, and we honor Dr. Phelps in many ways. Thank you.
Okay, so yesterday I got some good news. You guys know that we've been working on a master plan for Ralph Edwards Park. I don't know the details on it as of yet. I'm hoping Mr. Madrid does, but we have been awarded for the New Mexico Clean and Beautiful grant $51,000 for renovation of a new sprinkler system out there. So it's good news.
Thank you. Commissioner?
I have something I would like to say, and this is just coming from me personally, but I really want to thank you. I think that my observation of your efforts and what you do to try to make all of our parks in this community, and how difficult it is to do it on a shoestring, but I'm very, very impressed. And I really appreciate the fact that you put so much energy in the ball field too, because I grew up playing softball, and it's something that's very important for young people to learn how to play a game and be on a team, and that you learn as a child. So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I too would like to thank you. I've been around to many areas where you're working diligently, be it the Triangle Park, be it Ralph Edwards Park, and you're doing a fabulous job, and thank you. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Mayor.
it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Manager Madrid, do you have anything else?
Well,
You don't
I have to
this
do
much?
his evaluation, but I'm very happy with OJ's performance. To expand on the good news a little bit, we would have to incorporate the match to that, but he's already ahead of the game in having cost estimates for a major renovation of Ralph Edwards Park. So I think that's going to be one of the things that we have to incorporate into our budget, and we've already started that yesterday afternoon, actually.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's one of the Parks Department and Committee's priorities, and I really believe it should be one of ours, because that is a nice
Yes.
park, and it could use some help.
Yes.
But thank you, OJ.
Thank you.
Again, thank you.
Commissioner. Yes,
Thank you,
ma'am.
thank you. And thank you, Mr. Whitehead. Mr. Gary? It sounded important, didn't it?
She can work.
Yeah,
Thank you.
please, thanks.
Oh, yeah, I've already been on a roll this morning, sorry. All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is item C2, presentation related to new Spaceport Visitor Center. Randy Ashbaugh, requester. Yes, sir, you're up, front and center.
That's my visual aid. I'd like to express, Dr. Phelps was my dentist from the day he came here. In fact, I built his first office down on Nasa Street in the old hospital building. He actually expressed to me he was afraid he was going to go broke, only 10 minutes. He expressed to me that he was afraid he was going to go broke, and I looked over at him, he was in my pickup. I said, if you're any kind of dentist at all, you're going to be so busy you'll never catch up. And I was right. He was a very good dentist. He did a lot of work, saved a lot of my teeth, and I think that ball field is just a huge, huge thing for the community to show our thanks to the Phelps family. That being said, didn't have the money to put together a really nice visual aid, but I do have this plan. What this is a plan of the Spaceport Visitor Center on the north end of town. It's about 80 pages. It's there's a couple other books, specs that go with it. The Spaceport Visitor Center for the north end of town is completely designed and could go to bid tomorrow morning. Just a few little changes. The site that I had up by Walmart, just to give you an idea, the site would be, you see the McDonald's sign on exit 79? The building would go exactly right there, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. It's built like a wing. It's beautiful, has 300 parking spaces. It's a 6-acre tract. As soon as you pop up out of Williamsburg, you would see the building. You see those two billboards that are there. I mean, you can see them just as soon as you come out of Williamsburg. Then when you come by the border check station, start dropping into Cochillo Canyon, you can start seeing it. There's 25 to 50,000 people that go on that highway a day. And it would be tremendous exposure for the visitor center. It's going to cost about $7 million. And the reason I'm coming here is I'd like the city to get behind a resolution to go to the Spaceport Board to stand behind getting this new visitor center built. The one we have, the temporary one that was built, I think that center should stay no matter if the new center goes up on the north end or not. But it is projected in the original study that 250 to 500,000 people would go visit the spaceport. When Virgin first flies, I bet you we have 100 to 200,000 people here from El Paso, Albuquerque, all over the state, Arizona, and Texas. Just a few more highlights on the visitor center. It's on a 6-acre tract. It's located where it'd be tremendously visible. Has 300 parking spaces. It would have a bus pickup area. Has tremendous visibility. 25 to 50,000 people pass by every day, and you know people would come off and look at it, just see what it is. The downtown pickup area, there would be ticketing there. I should stay. A lot of the hall that's being used for spaceport equipment could be used for downtown functions, which there's really nothing downtown like a hall that's needed. The brewery looks like it's very busy, thank goodness. I mean, I think it's been a real contribution to the downtown. But it was said by the Spaceport Authority that there could be other tours that could come out of the new Spaceport Visitor Center. And we could have mine tours, ghost town tours. Turner could have a place in the Spaceport Center. We need to really push hard on our ATV tours, our Jeep tours, Elephant Butte excursions, and we need to get some kind of dam tours, maybe once or twice or a couple, 3 weekends during the summer. We could have various downtown tours, may it be the art or may it be the hot mineral water and other attractions in the downtown, and actually even make mineral bath reservations for Kathy Clark's company, River Bend, everybody. People drive by, they have most of the people, I bet you it's 95 to 98%, have no idea we have hot mineral water in this town. It'd be a good way to get people stopped, and we could put all kinds of other advertising in the Spaceport Center to draw people downtown, to the lake, to Chloride. I went to Chloride And that is just a beautiful little town. Those people work so hard to bring it back. I think hundreds of people could go there a weekend if the tours are laid out right. I left you a copy of the company that does tours. They're the ones that were out at the spaceport on the open day last month or a month and a half ago. They are extremely interested in coming up, and they're already doing these tours that I just mentioned on here, the Jeep tours, all kinds of mine tours, ghost town tours. I honestly believe we could get 50 to 500,000 new people here, and I'm not just blowing smoke somewhere. I think it could be done. This county, I've been all over this country, this little city, this county has more potential, more things to see and do that we don't really take advantage of than any other small little city like us anywhere in this country. And I was born here on Austin Street, raised here, built a lot of things here, and to me it's just puzzling why we just are not exploding. And I want to say something about City Manager Madrid. It feels very nice to be able to walk into the city administration building and feel that you're accepted and you can sit down and honestly talk with somebody. It's going to be very hard for me to come down here and raise hell when I think so much of City Manager Madrid. I personally like him. So, that being said, Mr. Madrid, if something goes haywire, it's going to be tough for me to come and get on your case, but I probably can do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
I know. I want to thank the commission too. Walked in here, this is the first time in years, many years, that I felt like I could really speak to you and not have that chip on my shoulder or animosity. I love this town. I'm not going to live anywhere else. I will go all over the world and look at things, and when I come back I say, why can't we do that in Truth or Consequences? I do. I go places and I see these things and I just, wow. But this is my home. I couldn't live anywhere else. I like to go see things, but I love to come home. This is my home, and it will always be my home. So I'd like the support of the City Commission, a resolution backing building the new visitor center. It will help the downtown. It will help the lake. It will help the people in Chloride. We have so many beautiful things in this county. It will help Turner Tours. It will help everybody. We can bring the people here. But you've got to have something like the spaceport visitors are on the interstate to get people stopped and impress them when they do come in. It was unfortunate the Heritage Center closed 30-some miles north of town. But they put it in the wrong place. They could have put it on the road to Engle. They could have put it up in San Antonio where they had their restaurants and different things and helped those people. In fact, the Socorro people did it. And it was absolutely $7 or $8 million just down the tubes. I went out there about 30 days ago and looked at the building. It's beautiful. It's a shame. The spaceport will never get the visitors that are justified to go out there and look at this beautiful facility unless the new spaceport visitor center is built. The buses could leave the center on the north, come drive through town, and we have tremendously more exposure from the new people coming into our downtown and to our hot mineral water. That being said, I would like you to maybe at another time bring up some other people's, maybe the people from Chloride. I really haven't talked to them. I have talked to the people here with this tour company that I give you the paper on. I honestly believe that we can get 50 to 500,000 more people in this county and bring a lot of money to my stores. I mean, to the county. Just kidding. It will bring money. It's unbelievable how the ATV people, how they spend money. And three trucks pulled in the other day, and in about 15, 20 minutes, they spent $405 at one of my stores. It's just unbelievable. The Jeep tours are tremendous. They spend a lot of money. We can get these people here. We need a resolution to go to the spaceport so they'll go to the legislature and get the funding. We had $1 billion to spend extra over the budget. And the spaceport got 19 million, the hospital got money, but I think this needs to be looked at hard. It will bring a lot of money to our community. I still have 4 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Randy,
Ashbrook.
I put the map up if you wanted to point out what area you're looking at.
Well, if you see the big, well,
It's right here.
right there is Walmart. Exactly right there is the sign of the McDonald's sign. That's exactly right there is where this building would go, and there's a 300 parking lot right there. The bus turning area goes down the back street and turns right there. But it is visible way down into the bricks there. It's like 2+ miles when you're coming from going south to north. And the visibility isn't quite as good as when coming in from the north, but it would stick prominently up. And you can see it when you top out Cuchillo Canyon back up in here, right in there. You can see it very clear. It'd be a huge asset to this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns? Thank you, Randy.
It's done. It's designed. It's ready to bid.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item D, comments from the public. The 3-minute rule applies. Before we get started, and I ask anybody that would like to give public comment, I would like to mention that we do have a few changes to the process of our agenda that will be taking effect in June, and this is on a trial basis. The first meeting in June, we will have public comment on the agenda as well as response to public comment. The second meeting of the month, we will not have public comment or response to public comment, but what we will have is the same evening of the meeting, Manager Madrid will be here in the chambers starting at 6 o'clock to visit with anyone that has concerns. Once they have visited with Manager Madrid, to start off, it will be the manager only, and then whoever would like to visit with him. And he will probably set a time period. I'm sure he's not going to sit here all night to visit with everybody. But at the next meeting, which would be the first meeting in July, then he would bring the comments and concerns to the public in public comment or in response to public comment. Again, this is just on a trial basis for right now. We may do it for a couple of 3 months, and if it works out, then we will make changes to our rules of procedure for future agenda items. If it doesn't work out, then we will go back to the way we are. So again, this will just be on a trial basis. It will start the first meeting in June. There will be public comment and response to public comment on the first meeting, but on the second meeting, there will not be public comment or response, but there will be a meeting with the manager here in the chambers starting at 6 o'clock the evening of our meeting. So I hope that everybody will kind of feel free to ask any questions or comments, or at least give it a try. We don't know how things are going to work until we try it out. So again, this is just a trial basis. Also, I don't know whether anybody has noticed or not, but at the last few meetings, we have had a sign-in sheet over here to my right. It is a sign-in sheet for those wishing to do public comment, give public comment. We ask that in the future, please sign legibly where we can read your name, and then it also asks over to the right the topic, whether it's an item on the agenda or just a concern that you have. We would just kind of like to keep on top of things and know exactly for the clerk's information as well as the commissioner's information what you want to talk about. And just because you don't sign in doesn't mean that you can't approach and do public comment, okay? We're not keeping you from that. We're just saying that we're trying to work a little smarter instead of harder. All right, now, at this time, do I have any public comment? Any public comment? Come on down. 3-minute rule applies. If you have any items to be given to the commission, please put it in the little black box.
Good morning, Mayor and
morning.
City Manager and Commission. My name is Hans Townsend, Desert View Inn, Chamber of Commerce. I want to make comments regarding Randy's proposition, and some of his comments, some are very accurate. This is one of the nicest places you can find with so much. There's so many prospects here for bringing people here. We have so much water, we have so many things, and we do not make use of them the way we should. We don't expand things the way we should. We don't use money to bring in more money. We just ride along, and it's not working. Las Cruces is eating our lunch as far as the spaceport is concerned. We're getting nothing out of it. Spaceport is going to Cruces with everything, and it's sad, because we're closer and we have a lot more to offer if we would only put the right packet out there and show people what we have. And Randy putting a visitor center up by the freeway, I've made my comments about that years ago. I've seen it in all the other small towns where putting things outside the town, your downtown dies. We're lucky we've got the brewery, but we should be concentrating on the downtown and making that attract people. When the people go into town, they spread out to the other places anyway. Put an obelisk, put a great big thing like they had on the freeway for the place he was talking about that closed down. That everybody knows what that is and sees it. Nobody goes up the freeway, but they see it. Now, if we've got something in there that says Spaceport America and with signs to go downtown, you need the downtown. You've got space downtown to make parking if you like. We've got derelict buildings down there that need to be used. We need to concentrate on blowing up our downtown and making it a real place to visit and a place to be. But it needs thought, it needs imagination, and it needs money. And we need to spend money in the right way to build things and attract things. It's really important. I came here and invested in the business because I saw Spaceport coming. I saw the voting, and this county put in their tax money, just like Doña did. But we're losing out. Every time something advances, it goes there. And we're not pushing hard enough, and we're not putting forward a plan that asks people to see what we are and what we can offer. And we need to make a package that really shows those people from Spaceport that we have a lot more to offer than Cruces. Cruces is a city. There's not a lot down there except stores. But if you want something special, we've got it. We need to show what we've got, and we need to put that package together to attract those people. And we're not going to get 50,000 people. It's going to build slowly. We're going to get a lot of people, but we need to do something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, City Commissioners, Manager Madrid, Linda DiMarino on behalf of Main Street Truth or Consequences. Just wanting to invite everybody to the downtown hall meeting that we're having tomorrow at Lee Bell Johnson. It's at 6 p.m. Going to be rolling out the most recent plans for the Folk Street renovation project, as well as get public input on issues affecting the downtown like live workspaces, vacancies, and national chains in the downtown. So we hope to see you there. Thanks.
Thank you, Linda. Is there any other public comments this morning?
Marilyn Pope, Geronimo Springs Museum. I'm going to talk for just a second on the museum. I wasn't going to say anything today, but a conversation that came up earlier, I think I want to. All of you know a lot of these things that I'm saying. We're open 7 days a week, and we have programs and tours and so on. And one thing I want to note is that this is the first time, I've worked at the museum three different times, I guess. This is the first time I think I can look at the entire city commission and know that everyone on here is familiar with the museum. Sometimes I will, Paul probably is too familiar because he has an aunt and a mother that are very, very, very involved, and he probably hears more about it than he wants to. The thing that I wanted to say is in regards to youth sports. Sometimes when people get in real arguments and are nasty and mean and so on, I want to say to them, did you ever play on a team? And I think that with sponsoring teamwork in our community, it will help us for the future. It helps us with our health. It helps keep kids off the street with drugs. I don't think there's anything we can do for our community that would be more positive. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Do I have any other public comment this morning? Jagger, you signed in as public comment. Do you want a public comment, or are you going to talk during Lodger's tax? Okay.
Good morning, Ron Pecori, TRC, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Manager Madrid. Last commission meeting I came and talked to you about the double roundabout, which is obvious that has really bothered me. That I think the new Department of Transportation, New Mexico, is trying to sell us a bill of goods. I really do feel that. And it dawned on me when Bo from the utility company came to the Public Utility Advisory Board and said that he had preliminary information on where he's going to have to move the power poles. And I thought to myself, well, who's going to pay for moving those power poles? Because there was no mention of any infrastructure that the presentation did for the roundabouts at New School Road and Fifth Avenue. So, and I hope you all got my email and read it. I just really don't think it's the right thing for our community. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was ransomware. I don't know if anybody saw 60 Minutes, but what hit home was that there was a little town of 12,000, and that somebody, bad guy, hacker, got in and they got into their computer system and locked it down, and they wanted $5 million to unlock their computer system. If that hit this town, that'd be something. Not only are the city, but it's also the utility company. So it's not something that you can be reactive to. You have to be proactive and maybe ask Tyler where they're at. I assume that's still the software company. They have maintenance contractors. I assume that. I'm just wondering what their feeling on is it, and do we need to look at maybe ransomware insurance? Just a thought that came to my head. I'm concerned about our community also. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Ron. Do we have any other public comment this morning? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next item on our agenda is item E, response to public comment. Do we have any response to public comment this morning?
I do, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
In response to Ms. DiMarino, I had a conversation with her the other day, and there was some confusion about, this meeting that's going to be tomorrow evening. And just my understanding and my clarification was that the downtown area, through the consequences, belongs to every single person in the community. And that this invitation is extended from exit 79 to exit 75 and any other place in between that people feel that they would like to have input. And not only is it the downtown area important in my opinion, but also that the exits to a town are important, and what we provide and what people see when they first come into the community. And so that invitation is extended to every single person that lives in this community, not just downtown people. Am I correct on that one, yes. Mr. DiMarino? Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Heschler, did you have any comments? No. Okay. And I would like to thank everyone for their comments. Remember, Manager Madrid's door is always open. He's accepting phone calls. If you have concerns or questions, he would be happy to meet with you at any time and visit with you and kind of resolve issues or think of solutions. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item F, the consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of F1, City Commission regular minutes, May 8, 2019. F2, acknowledge the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board minutes for the January 31st and February 7th, 2019 special meetings. Item F3, the fiscal year 19 Lodgers Tax Funding third quarter reports. And F4, approve the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board recommendation to amend Lodgers Tax 2018-2019 budget for Sierra County Arts Council. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Or is there anything that would like to be removed separately and discussed?
Mayor Whitehead, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar as you just presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I'll second.
I have a motion and 2 seconds to approve the consent calendar. Is there any further questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item G, ordinance, resolutions, and zoning. G1, discussion action, resolution number 43/1819, amending and restating resolution number 37/1819, adopted on April 24th, 2019, approving the drinking water revolving loan, DWRL, application DW4794, for the purpose of financing the cost of replacing high-risk water lines identified in the asset management plan. City Manager Madrid.
Mayor, Commissioners, you previously approved a resolution related to this drinking water revolving loan fund application. And the language in the loan agreement, in the application and the agreement, we refer to a joint utility fund. The language should have been specific to name water, wastewater, and electric, so that each enterprise fund is named and identified separately. We need to make that adjustment in the language. Needing to make that adjustment in the language requires a new resolution. A new resolution requires a change in the timeline. No other changes. Just updating the resolution for that language to include the enterprise funds individually and to move the schedule back a little bit because the new resolution changes the timeline. It's pretty simple. No other terms and conditions are changed. Recommend your approval.
Thank you, Manager. Is there any questions, comments, concerns, Commissioners?
How did we miss that the first round?
We didn't know that they would require
All the enterprises?
the enterprises to be moved separately.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments, concerns? I stand for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make that motion to approve as presented by Manager Madrid.
And I have a second. I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 43/1819, amending and restating resolution number 37/1819 as presented by Manager Madrid. Is there any further questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all vote. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Whitehead.
Aye.
Honorable Kathy Clark.
Aye.
Honorable Ralph Fishler.
Aye.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Aye.
Honorable George Takei.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item H, new business. H1, discussion action, request for approval of the recommendation from the Recreation Advisory Board related to a mural on the dog park wall and a dog park walkway for ADA accessibility and safety. Greg Diamore, Recreation Advisory Board Chair. Come forward, please.
OJ's really good too, but
Well, we'll bring OJ up and we'll bring
Carol,
Carol up.
they're the important people.
Oh, they're all important.
The dog park is like, a happening place. And there's a wall that used to be part of the firehouse, when the firehouse was over there. And we do have a foundation, the Bonner Foundation, which gives money to the dog park for different things the dog parks need, and gives food to the animal shelter. And anyway, they do lots of good things for animals in this community, amazingly enough. Anyway, there's been the idea that popped up that there would like to be that wall painted with a mural, and it would be called the Bonner Memorial Wall.
They have
Can I ask you to get to the mic, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
The foundation asked if there were something that they could do to memorialize the main person who passed away a little over a year ago. And they still want to do water, each area having in-ground water. OJ needs about 2 more people before we can really do that and maintain it properly. I suggested a mural on that white, ugly wall, which is okay for dogs, but dogs take people to the dog park, so, and they like that idea. They like the idea of, number one, decorating the wall. And we contacted a local artist, and he has already rendered a couple of sketches. He offered up 3. Each one will be sent to the foundation for their approval, because they have agreed to fund the mural in its entirety. So I told them that, we would have to get the city's approval for the mural, but since it was being totally funded, there shouldn't hopefully be an issue with that. That's the mural part.
That's the piece that goes along why we had that concern is, the artist, Reed Risch, has done murals around town as it is already. But this being on city property, we weren't sure what process and procedure would be, that we may need to go meet everybody's requirements for doing that. There will be no funds coming out of the city directly to pay for it. Like I said, it'll come out of the foundation, but we just wanted to make sure we had that approval, and then if the foundation approves a mural, we would bring that actual rendering back for your approval. But before we headed any further into this, we wanted to make sure that our process for getting that done, the dog parks process, was all appropriate with the city.
Thank you. AJ, do you have any comments, questions, concerns?
My only concern would be that the mural be approved beforehand, before we put it up, so everybody knows what is going up. And that was my only concern with the mural.
Thank you.
You're good.
One more thing on the mural. Gone. Gone? What did you say? Right, okay, well, it was something to do with that. I'm sorry.
But anyway,
The fence is kind of a tertiary issue with the mural, because the artist will have scaffolding and gallons of paint, and the time frame depends upon the weather. He wants a lasting mural. So the weather is very significant regarding the paint, and there's some wall resurfacing that needs to be attended to as well. But in order for him to get his equipment to the wall, we still need an opening between the large dog area and the small dog area so that he can get his equipment closer than the parking lot. So that is a concern, and I think Manager Madrid is aware of that, and OJ's about to shoot darts at me, aware of that, so we keep everybody busy, but that's the other.
Thank you. Manager Madrid, questions, comments?
I think we have no issues here, but one, and this is my first mural, I think the only approval that we would need is from the Arts Council on the content of the mural. Is that normally part of the process? No? Okay. Then we have no issues. I've met with all of them before, and I don't think there's anything that's inappropriate that's planned, so I don't see any issues.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark.
Only just because I've been involved in some murals that we did in the 90s here in town, and I'm just making a comment that I think it's very admirable that the three of you are up here asking permission to do something that will make our community more presentable. And Mayor, my understanding is this is a city piece of property, so it is a nice request that you extend us the courtesy to say, can we paint your building? And from that standpoint, just to respect your consideration, I think it is nice that we would be confident and comfortable on whatever you wanted to put on that wall. But I don't think you're going to have much problem from this commissioner painting that wall. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Do I have any other questions, comments, concerns? I do have a question. How soon do you plan on getting started or want to get started, and when will this be done, and what's the time frame that we're looking at?
According to Reed, and that's why I mentioned weather, I don't think you can be out there in wind either.
Right.
The fact that there is some surface improvement that needs to be done to the wall, and he said probably altogether, depending on the weather, 2 months or a little more. But that's up to the environment.
Thank you. Commissioner Heschler.
Just like to make a quick comment. Because of my past history, I know how demanding this time of year is for parks. And so I would recommend, since there's several issues that have to be addressed at the dog park, perhaps Manager Madrid could maybe identify a Wolfpack type situation where we have a couple of different entities within the city, whether it's facilities, parks, or someone else, put a little team together and address that situation and get it done all at once and quickly, instead of waiting for, O.J. Heschler to plan it and try to get it done 2 or 3 months from now. But this way it could be done expediently, and we could share the resources to get it done more quickly.
Absolutely, Commissioner.
One of the if or ors is, in order for the dog park to be able to be used on a daily basis, there would really need to be another service gate between the single-use area and the large dog area. Cost saving, it would be much less expensive to just pull the fence down temporarily, so that the vehicle with the scaffolding and with the tree situation could be reached. But then that would leave just one area for the dogs. So that's just a consideration, and we need to advise the public if we do have to shut the park down for any length of time.
Thank you. Commissioner Zaghetti.
Okay. Yeah, I have no problems with this, and I think it's a great project to move forward with. This is kind of a peripheral issue, literally, to the dog park. We're going to be painting that wall. Of course, that's going to bring a lot of people will now look at it, and then as soon as they lift their eyes a little bit more upwards, they look at that property next door, and it's full of junk, and they I mean, it looks fine from the street, but when you're looking at it from the dog park, that property is an eyesore. I don't know if there's, you know, and if it constitutes any code violations, but we get a lot of visitors to the dog park, and it exposes a rather nasty-looking piece of property to public view now. I don't know what can be done about it, but I think everybody would appreciate it if we were to find a way to get the property owners to do a little bit of cleanup and sprucing up on that piece of property as well.
It's my understanding that the property on the front, the mobile home, is owned by someone that the man died, and I don't know, that I'm sure they're in their 90s now, so they own quite a bit of property in town. I don't know how that would affect any kind of code situation.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions, comments, concerns?
I'll just throw in, Commissioner Spaghetti, what code violations are we talking about, like the weeds and the...
Well, yeah, there's a lot of junk back there, and it just not a very pleasant-looking property, you know.
Part of the metal fence is blown down, and I ran into him one day over there looking at the wall, and he had agreed that he was going to fix the fence and put it back, but he did at least get it settled into a different area, so, but it's quite dangerous with this wind, I think.
Thank you.
Are we going to...
Part two was the walkway around the park to make it ADA accessible, and that would end up being future planning for this commission. Through part of those donations and people doing nice things for us, we do have a architectural drawing that OJ already has, we discussed it there, that we'd like to leave with the commission.
You can have,
that
should I give this to?
And that just, so that they can do, that would turn around and make the property ADA accessible. The grades are all done right and put in there, I'm not sure just what else may or may not be needed. But we have lots of very helpful people in the community trying to figure out how do we make things better here. And so that's one we just wanted to bring up. I know funding time period is probably getting close, so maybe we can look at that for this next fiscal year.
And this may be a question for Jay, actually. The foundation director that I met with liked the idea of the walkway around the park and considered, well, you know, we could probably help you out with that too. However, is there a liability associated with it if the foundation funded it versus the city?
Well,
I know, that's what I said.
We all know the problem is if somebody gets hurt, almost everybody gets named in a subsequent claim or a lawsuit. So that's not necessarily going to get us very far, I'm afraid.
Okay, so
I can answer that. Generally, if the foundation built it, you could be liable. If you donated the money and the city built it, the city would be primarily liable.
Thank you. They do have one more plan that they really want to see because they are dead set on water at the park. And they want a water fountain. Meaning they want to fund a water fountain between the large dog area and the small dog area with the fence running right through it, and shallow on the little dog side and deeper on the big dog side because they want to see dogs playing in the water. So this is also down the road. These are very wonderful area, actually residents, but very animal oriented. Like Greg said, they donated to the even SCARS, the Sierra County Animal Rescue, and to the new shelter. And so if they would like to fund that, I'm sure we can figure out how to take care of it.
Thank you, folks. Manager Madrid, would you like to address this?
Mayor, Commissioners, I don't think that there are any issues that they brought forward that would require action by the commission. I think that we can proceed at least with the first two, the mural and the path. And then from there, we can look at the next phase. But I think we're able to proceed with those two, and we will.
So we don't need any action taken?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Jay?
Are we seeking any action? I mean, I didn't know if there was any,
It just says discussion action, so.
I'm asking,
we were just making aware and making sure that we were following all
Yeah,
proper.
I think I have clear direction from the governing body, so.
so we would not take any action then?
Thank you, folks. Thank
Thank
you
you
again.
very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you all.
You're welcome. Thank you, Greg. The next item on our agenda this morning is item H2, discussion action, lodgers tax funding allocations for fiscal year 2019-2020. City Manager Madrid and Jake Forrestner. Let's see, Jake,
Now,
if
I
not-
don't think that we have any representatives from the Loggers Tax Board? No? Okay. Then, I know we have people that would like to speak on this subject. That's at the discretion of the commission. Why don't I start off by giving you some background regarding the process, the meeting that was held to do the allocations, and the final recommendations from the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board.
Perfect.
The applications were submitted as usual. The packets were evaluated by members of the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. I want to share one observation that I made personally in that process, and I did share this with the board. The application process, while it has not changed, it seems that the discussion at the advisory board meeting indicated a change in the way the advisory board, in the direction that they want to go in the areas of advertising and marketing, moving from solid printed matter towards more media. And the applications do not reflect emphasizing that. I did have a discussion with the chairman regarding trying to update the applications to encourage that, because I think it wasn't expressed to the applicants at all that this direction in marketing and advertising should take place. I think that we can work with the Lodgers Tax Board to do a little better job of steering the applications towards the content and the quality that they want, especially in the area of electronic and social media advertising and marketing. What I suggested was possibly a point system for if you're going to market with a certain media, if you're going to have a Facebook page, if you're going to have a website, rather than a newspaper article. Of course, those things seem to have more value nowadays. So I think that that change will be in next year's round of applications, and it should be. And I think everyone here that was recommended for advertising is ready and able to do that. But I wanted to make that clear that seems to be a change in that direction. I don't think it's a bad thing. There was a lot of discussion on the funding levels. Originally, the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board wanted to hold back about 20% of their funding and not make that decision at that board meeting. Ultimately, the recommendations only left about maybe $1,800 unallocated for this year. There was much discussion on different pieces of them, and I think some of the applicants that may want to speak to that can better describe it than I can. The final recommendations I'll read for the record. The Chamber of Commerce of Trust Consequences in Sierra County requested $24,500. Lodgers Tax Board recommended funding $12,000. The Geronimo Springs Museum requested $12,000. The board recommended funding $10,000. Main Street Truth or Consequences requested $11,600. The board recommended full funding of $11,600 for them. The Sierra Arts Council had requested $21,310, and after some discussion, the board recommended funding $5,000. The TRC Fiesta Council requested $8,000 and was recommended for funding in $4,000. The Veterans Memorial Park and Museum requested $8,700 and was recommended for funding in $2,825. I witnessed all the discussion and clarification from the applicants. There were some entities that had no representation, and I think the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board took that into consideration in making some of these recommendations because they couldn't get their question answered. I don't have any reason to disagree or to modify their recommendations, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Manager Madrid. Do I have any questions, comments, concerns?
I'll say maybe one legal, observation is that, looking at the packet, I was able to combine my analysis going to one central point. On page 2 or 3, all the applications, the questions asked how you promote TRC in the area in conjunction with event/project. So that's really key, is making sure you're satisfied that the allocations will be matching up. What is being stated will be done right. So I bring this up because I know it's sort of similar to the issues we talked about when we discussed some recipient grants and we're getting money or we're getting something in exchange. That's really what I'm looking at here is the same thing. And I think the answer on page 2 or 3 of all these applications really is the key.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
A couple of comments to add to what Manager Madrid's saying. We have had a conversation in this commission chamber about using social media as more of a driver for promoting our communities because it does outreach and outsource this community. And one of the things that I remember correctly, we're supposed to be a 75-25, 75% out of the area to promote heads on beds, and that's what Lodgers Tax is defined as. So that being said, I do appreciate the effort that the Lodgers Tax Board put into this. I'm a little disappointed in a few things, and some of the things I'm disappointed in is that we get to quarter 3 with minor exception. There are a lot of funds that have not been used by these groups, and apart from the conversations we've also had in this particular chamber, we appreciate and understand that when you have a May or early June event, that it creates an issue, and we need to take that into account. But like I said, I am also just a little disappointed that it hasn't been more media-driven instead of paper-driven, and that 75-25% doesn't really look like it's been followed through carefully enough. And I'm not going to get in any depth about it because we are kind of at a we kind of have a decision that needs to be made, and we need to make this for our manager and our finance manager, who happens to be one and the same, so that he can get our budget put together. But I do hope that next year, when people are putting together their applications for Lodgers Tax, that we keep that in mind, that it is 75-25, and that paper is not always the best way to spend 75% of your money out of the area. We're probably better putting it into something that Ms. DiMarino has actually done for us when she's put together a couple of events. So we know that it can be done, and it's very successful. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any further questions, comments, concerns? Is there anyone here in the audience that is here to speak on behalf of Lodgers Tax would like to speak? Hans, is it okay with my fellow commissioners to allow them to speak? Hans?
Thank you. I'm representing the chamber, obviously. I think that we're at a crossroads, and some of the things we're not looking at right. And one of the things with the 75-25, it's being expressed as spending the money, 75% outside the community, 25% in, which doesn't make sense. The effect needs to be at least 75% outside the community. We need to make the effect outside here and bring people to the community. But sometimes you'll spend the money here to do that. An obvious thing is when you get a website built. When Ruana builds a website, she does that here, and the money's spent here. But the effect is outside the community, and that's the important thing. So I think that 75-25 has got to be clarified quite a bit for people so they understand that it's not, you can't spend any money here. If the effect is outside and bringing people here, that's the effect we're looking for. I'd like to address City Manager Morris. We spoke about the amount of money that's now distributed for lodgers tax use, and you said it stayed the same. Well, I want to show you in 2011-2012, 72,000 was distributed among the people that work to provide attraction for visitors. And a lot of those people, most of them, the actual labor, doesn't get paid for. They put in a lot of effort to do that. And the lodgers tax has gone up, and the amount of money given to these people has gone down. And you expect the same kind of result. Getting on to the distribution between online and paper, there are different ways and different reasons. If you go out and look at any of the visitor centers, look at any of the big cities, they've all got one of these, and they still do it. Santa Fe does it. Carlsbad does it. They don't do it because they don't know any better. They do it because there's a certain section of the public travels, and they see something, and that's their attraction. They may go and look it up online afterwards, so there should be stuff there first. But this is still a valid point for a lot of things, getting the information out there. It's in the racks everywhere. And if this doesn't attract you, you don't pick it up. When we make the visitor's guide, we don't send it out to people who don't ask for it. We get people who call for information, and we send them a visitor's guide. They go out in the racks in Albuquerque, all over Albuquerque for 4 months, all over El Paso for 4 months. And they go in the racks. People don't pick them up if they don't want it. It's not forced on anybody. In other words, when these go, and last year we did 35,000 of them, when they go, they're picked up by people who want them. So if they're used, obviously they're good. Now getting onto the online, yes, definitely there's a big move to online, but older people still don't go online to look things up. They still pick these things up. You can tell that by the racks in all the public places, and the amount of people, when people come into the hotel to check in, they go over to the rack on the wall, which is not the Tier C rack, it's the rack for all over New Mexico, and they're in there picking out papers of things they want to go and see, and they take those to their room and they examine them, and then they'll go online and look it up if it's something that attracts them. But you've got to open the door somehow to make them go and look for that. And so that's where the paper still has a job. As far as online is concerned, there's a lot more now online, and just putting an ad up on Facebook doesn't mean you're going to get to people that are looking at tourism. You'll get some. But now, we've invested now in quite a bit of software that I can go on Pinterest and pick out what their interests are, put a keyword in, And the people that are interested in that, that write about that, they will be automatically picked up and put in your list. So you can actually direct your online. It's getting very, very sophisticated. But those things cost money too. And if you don't put that money in the right place, you're still not heading in the right direction. Just the same as if you don't put money in the paperwork place. And so we don't just do what we put on the lodgers tax application. We give money to all the things that are going on around here. We give money to the Boys and Girls Club. We give money to a lot of people. We put $1,500 just in the insurance of the airport car every year. We can't put that on the lodgers tax application. But we do spend that money. And then when you cut us back to the bone doing something like this, we just can't. We're close to not being able to do anything anymore. And I'm sorry, things go up. They cost more. And it feels like we're being forced in a funnel. Like I said, in 2011-12, your allocations were $72,000. Now we produce more lodgers tax, and the amount given out was 40-odd thousand. It was 52,000, and actually the 10% held back was 5,100. Which is good, because if something comes up, it's a good thought. You've got some money to do it with. But you can't keep squeezing everything and expect more. And with Spaceport coming up, we need to be putting out there a face that is attractive to those people out there. We don't get anything from Spaceport unless we actually kick them in the teeth and ask for it. We don't get mentioned. There's some new articles out. I don't know if you've seen them in the last week. There are 2 more articles out. They don't mention TRC. One of them has the headline, Spaceport near Truth or Consequences. But everything else written underneath it is about Las Cruces. Tours from Las Cruces. Everything is Las Cruces. And we're going to lose out. And expecting 500,000 visitors is going to be a pie-in-the-sky dream, because the buses run from Cruces. It's just not going to happen if we don't do something about it. And if we don't make that face out there that people can see and understand what we have here. I still don't understand. This place has more to offer than anything else in southern New Mexico. It's got more than Carlsbad.
Thank you, Hans.
Thank you.
Hello. I agree with Mr. Townsend in that it would be nice to have more money to spend. Some of the allocation that we're using this year for Main Street is actually going to be used to put a good face out there for TRC. Right now, when we set up booths in places, we don't have like professional displays. So, you know, when our booth is out there, we don't have like nice professional up-to-date looking display. So that's one of the ways that Main Street's planning on using lodgers tax, and those materials will be available for other groups to use as well that are going to represent our area. Another thing we're doing this year is we're going to do a brochure that is a very general Truth or Consequences brochure. You know, a lot of people don't want to pick up a ton of stuff. I mean, everybody's trying to reduce the amount of paper that they have. So instead of, you know, doing something real big, just something like that's very attractive, highlighting our assets to get people here, because without having like a real good solid tourism marketing plan for the town, there are things that are being missed, and that's one of them. We don't have a general Truth or Consequences brochure, so that's another thing that we're putting out. As far as digital marketing goes, we really like it at Main Street. We find that you are able to target people looking for travel. When you go into Facebook, you can select your market. You can select it by geography, by interest. I mean, if we think that, I mean, for example, if we were going to hold an event with people who like off-road vehicles, for example, well, those people like pages for off-road vehicles on their Facebook page. Well, we would, I'm not saying we're doing this, I'm just using it as an example, we would be able to target those people specifically and say we wanted to get people say it's a cold time of year that we're having it, we would want to identify the people that are in places that are colder that want to warm up and do OHVs. So we find that it's a really effective way, and using the analytics, you're able to see who the people are that are actually opening your ads. So I really do appreciate the new Lodgers Tax Board that we have for pushing us all to go in that direction. And I think that's all.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Linda. Thank you. Do I have any further questions, comments, or concerns from our commission?
I'd like to add, how much, okay, I'm new here, and I would like to know how we come up with this allocation number, with a 51,000 from the lodger's tax. Do we use a percentage?
Yes.
Of it?
It's a formula.
Okay. And so has that formula changed?
No,
since,
it hasn't
It did.
been updated
It did.
the last,
It changed.
how,
It changed several years ago, and this was before I was a commissioner, but we used to put out more money in lodger's tax to local groups that were doing events. And then we were looking at funding a couple of other things through the lodger's tax, which partly were subrecipients. So it kind of got changed, the formula, so that we could have the subrecipient go out also. Isn't that correct, Mayor?
I think that's the way it was, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so we used to give out about 60%, and then bricks and mortar, we would hold 40%.
Right.
And that went to parks and recreation and the golf course and those kind of things. And then when we wanted to contribute and participate with Main Street and with some of these other things that came into our view, then we changed the formula through the commission, and in order to be able to do that.
And it's up on the screen.
This was the resolution that was passed 2012-13, that shows the breakdown of the percentage of what should go to what, and the amount that they have at this point for allegation is for $46,843. That we were told to use for the,
And that was 2000.
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was
8-9.
That was 8-9.
That's for the fiscal year budget 8-9. These are the actual numbers for that year's budget. Yeah, it did change. This is the percentages that need to be used, as well as, the amount we use for allocation. Sorry, it was this amount right there, but it's 35%.
And that's the percentages we're currently using, correct?
I think it changed again, Mayor.
It changed again. Do we remember what year it
I think
changed
it
again?
changed when we were required by the state, Main Street, to put $35,000 into Main Street program.
And that was, how long ago, Linda, was that?
It was a while back, but it wasn't 8-9.
Main Street started in 2009, but it was really like about 3 years after that.
2012, so
I
it
think
was
so.
right when I came on board then.
Yeah, and I missed it. I just saw it from the outside.
Or prior to my coming on board.
So if we just put more heads on beds, then we'll have more money to put out percentage.
That's right, that's right. Did I have one more person that wanted to speak? I have a couple more. Yeah.
Okay, on the Geronimo Trail Scenic Byway application, what we use our city lodger's tax for are pamphlets, booklets. We get a year's supply at a time with the lodger's tax. Now, I run the visitor center, and we give out massive amounts of paper product to people. We get people that, well, I'm just passing through, but do know they're from Albuquerque. Well, you know, here's what we have here. Come back and visit us sometime. Stop and see what we have. If they're from anywhere in New Mexico, they get information on the whole area for the potential possibilities of future visits. Most of what, we do online advertising, but a lot of it we use county lodgers tax for county-wide advertising. So we're basically pulling out of another pot. We have somebody that does our we have somebody that does our website, but we also have somebody who does direct marketing online. And we do the county lodgers tax is set up different, so you can apply every 3 months for so much. So we usually apply for so much for the county lodgers tax each time to do a contract with this contractor so that she can continue our online presence. So this way we're trying to get the benefit of both advertising by pulling out of 2 pots. Now this last year, as I put on my application, we didn't have enough money for one of our brochures, and I wound up paying for that out of my pocket because we give them out, we send them out, we shipped 5 cases of information to the El Paso Visitor Center last year between El Paso, the El Paso Airport, and Fort Bliss. We get a lot of visitors. We get a lot of those soldiers from Fort Bliss. They want to get out of El Paso, they want to go someplace for the weekend, and they're repeat visitors, and they'll come up, they'll spend the night, they'll eat some meals, they'll go to Chloride or Hillsborough or out to the lake or something, but they're coming to town for the weekend. And they like to look through and say, okay, next time let's try this place, next time let's try this place. And then they'll get out their little phones and they'll, look up more information. But we do use both the printed stuff that we use with the mostly city lodgers tax, and then the online that we get from the county lodgers tax.
Thank you. Kim?
Hi there, Kim Skinner, chairperson for the Sierra County Tourism Board. You have my application there, and you have all the attached Google Analytics, website traffic, all of that return on investment is attached to your application. What I wanted to talk about was when you talked about the 70-some thousand, when did that change? If you look back at that time frame that Hans was talking about, that's when Monique Jacobson got put in as Secretary of the Tourism Department. And so as Secretary of the Tourism Department, she required that we do new branding, which is New Mexico True, which we really do embrace. TRC, Sierra County, and Elephant Butte are New Mexico True communities. In order to be a New Mexico True community and have that designation on your website, on your Facebook pages, on Twitter and all of that, you have to be registered with them and you have to follow their stringent guidelines. When they implemented the guidelines, the city of TRC was doing that 79%, and unfortunately, most of the people here could not follow the guidelines. Everything, 100% of everything that our tourism board does has to be pre-approved in Santa Fe by the tourism department before we can even put it on our website or use it in Facebook or even put it on an ad, online or in a magazine or anything else. So what happened at that time was Juan and Linda Sparks, because Linda Sparks couldn't even manage it, they pulled our application for the Sierra County Tourism Board and the Geronimo Trails applications out of that funds. So if you put all of that fund back together, that would be your total amount. And so I think I'm answering Hans's question about what happened at that time frame, and that is what happened.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay.
So the tourism board and Geronimo Trail come out of part of the property marketing thing. We have to be New Mexico True.
Thank you.
Regular lodging tax applicants don't have.
Thank you. Right, and Joni and I met with Morris and with Tammy and gone over the guidelines for New Mexico True. And I know, Tammy, did you attend the website, the webinar? So she understands how complicated and confusing It is, and the individuals that we use are local people, but they have to be pre-registered and have to attend training with the tourism department as far as our graphic design and our webmaster. So it's a whole nother level of, I don't know, big brother, you know, secretary, tourism department looking down over you.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you all. All right, do we have any further questions,
Mayor,
comments,
as
concerns?
co-chair, as co-chair of that tourism department, Kim is absolutely correct.
Yes.
And it's really unfortunate. It has been effective on some level, but the restrictions that the state with that Mexico Troop branding have put on all communities in the state are really quite remarkable. And, you know, that we've got two organizations that have done an extraordinary job, in my opinion, of trying to do that so that we don't lose that matching funds that we get from the state, which is another anywhere from 20 to 40,000, depending on who makes the decision.
Correct,
So,
correct. Marilyn, you have a comment?
When Kathy was talking about the digital advertising and so on, something that I just thought about, the advertising that we do out of town, especially to El Paso and Fort Bliss, always includes a huge number of digital ads with it. It's just that we turn in the printed ad, and I never thought about that. So after this, I can put those numbers in too.
Thank you, Mary.
And then that'll further confuse which category it goes in.
Perfect. Thank you. Hans, real quick.
Yeah, it's very short. Just clarification. I know where Kim's coming from. We communicate a lot. And there are some things that if you were to do New Mexico Troop, you probably wouldn't be able to get them done. And so the visitor's guide is not New Mexico Troop, but we distribute a lot. But there are things that, like the most important brochure in this town for spreading to the people that visit us is the hot springs brochure that gives people the map of where the hot springs are and where they can go to soak. That's the most important brochure. Do you know we didn't have one for a year now? We haven't had a copy of it because they were all run out. And Kim couldn't get another one out there. And somebody else was going to do it, but it didn't happen. So 10 days ago, Kim let me have the paperwork to do it with the technical side of it. Rowan had updated the map with the different baths, some because some of the baths have changed. The names have changed. We've got a new one as well. And I got that from her, and I got the old Photoshop copy of the printed side. And I sat that night and changed the necessary wording on that printed side and got it off to the printer the next day, and within a week, we had brochures to distribute. Those are the kind of things that you guys don't see, that you don't know is going on. But it costs us money every time. And we don't mind doing it because it's important. That brochure in town is the most important brochure. But those are the little things that we're all running around with all the time and trying to cope with and get things done. And so I just want you to understand that we don't work against each other all the time. There's lots of things we try and help each other with. And that's one of those things that we need. And not to have one is crazy.
Thank you.
But the original one had New Mexico Troop. We did it without New Mexico Troop, but we did put City of Truth, the consequences on there.
Nice. Thank you. Do I have any further questions, comments, or concerns? Manager Madrid, your recommendation?
To approve as the recommendation of the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board.
Thank you, and I stand for a motion.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
And I need a second, please.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the lodger's tax funding allocations for fiscal year 2019-2020 as presented by Manager Morris Madrid and also as discussed by all of the applicants in the House. Do I have any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you all. The next item on our agenda this morning is reports. City Manager Madrid, do you have a report?
I have a very brief one, Mayor and Commissioners. As you mentioned, I have an open door policy I need to apologize that that policy is not in effect this week. I'm working on budgets, and I have canceled appointments and closed my doors for all of this week and most of next week. So if you get a rejection, it's not that I'm being mean, it's that I'm extra busy. And if anyone does need to see me, we will make an appointment in the future. The other thing that I wanted to do is I want to read part of a letter that I got, and it's of appreciation from Sharon Van Gelder. And I'll just read a piece of it. Dear Mr. Madrid, a note of thanks to the street department for sending Walter and the street sweeper to clean Arrowhead Road. He did a beautiful job and great care in cleaning up the dirt and gravel that had been accumulating for some time. In fact, one area had been forgotten for some time, and as it is not a thoroughfare, his expertise in operating the equipment was most apparent. We take pride in our neighborhood and endeavor to keep trash picked up and weeds under control. The street cleaner coming just enhances the look of the neighborhood and reflects the effort and care the citizens make to keep their area well kept. So I want to compliment Walter, and it's addressed to Walter and Walter's boss, whose name is Benny Fuentes. So I wanted to give kudos to them and let the commissioners and the public know that we do appreciate when the public recognizes that good things happen, because we do have good things happening. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Attorney Rubin, do you have a report?
No report today, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Zaghetti, do you have a report?
Oh, okay, where do I start? A couple of items. Last Friday evening, Chief Aragon and I went out, rode around town a little bit with the officers on duty, and as usual, I've been on ride-alongs here before years ago, and I did this more frequently back at St. Louis. But every time it's an eye-opening experience, and I mentioned to officers Marine and Sokolo, right? Yeah, that the public doesn't realize what they go through out there. It's not sitting around writing traffic tickets or chasing bank robbers or stuff like that. Every case that they dealt with while we were out there was in some way related to helping a person with a mental mental condition. Yeah, and one was a domestic disturbance. It turned out he had outstanding warrants, but there were mental issues involved with the person involved. There was another woman who ran away from Sierra Vista Hospital and was all the way down on Elm Street. And when they picked her up, Officer Marin did a great job talking her back into the car, got her back up to the hospital. Unfortunately, once she got back there, she reacted very angrily. She was very upset, but, you know, obviously she had some issues, and she was again later transported to another facility for treatment. But these officers, they have to really know how to deal with people, and people who have significant issues. And I think it's we really have to remember that this is something that they're doing a lot more, and it requires a lot more training and actually empathy on their part in order to deal with these people the way it needs to be done. And I want to express my appreciation for everything that they go through. The other thing that was going on last week, and this has to do again with mental health issues, but we have in Sierra County an opioid abuse consortium that is dealing with the significant issues that this community and other communities deal with on opioid abuse. I went to their meeting on Wednesday, and again, it was very informative. But we have a great group of people that have gotten together and looking at the issues, alternatives to incarceration, because we found out that incarceration does not help. There's got to be some kind of intervention going on. We have a lot of good people that are looking at these issues, and we are getting recognition at the state level for our efforts in that area. Also on Tuesday, the state attorney general was down here with their opioid abuse program, OPEN. They gave a presentation on what's going on at the state level, and other information is, again, on the significance of the problem. We had someone from the DEA come in and talk to us about a lot of fake pills now that are coming out, and there's so much going on in this area, again, that just kind of slips by the general attention of the public. But I found both of those to be very worthwhile and very informative, and I would urge my fellow commissioners to, take some time to become a little more informed of that. I also think it would be a good idea to have one of our members attend the opioid prevention groups meetings regularly, and I'd be more than willing to do that, take that responsibility on for myself.
That's
Okay.
nice.
That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Heschler? No report? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Clark?
Just a little bit more of what Commissioner Sugetti's saying, that I want to thank the city clerk, the city clerk's office, and Manager Madrid for putting together a luncheon for us to be able to thank our police department 2 weeks ago. It was very important for us to be able to do that. And Mayor, if you're okay with me mentioning this, it was just a real delight to see some organizations in the community reach out to our police department and put on special events for them. And Mayor and I talked about it, and we were happy to allow that to happen just with our police department and our people. And it's a compliment not only to our police department, but also to our people for recognizing, not all of them, Commissioner Sugetti, but we're getting there. But to realize that there are a lot of people in the community that do have a specific appreciation for what this police department does. And a lot of it they don't know because it's quiet and done behind the scenes. So I appreciate, Commissioner Sugetti, you bringing that up, because that was my list too. So, and Mayor, thank you for working with me on that one for that Police Appreciation Week. That was awesome. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Baca?
I do not have a report.
No report. And I have a short report because Mayor Pro Tem took some of my comments. But that's okay. Mine's just a shorter report. I would like to congratulate the class of 2019 who graduated on Friday, May 17th. I wish them well. We, the commission, wish them well and hope they enjoy the future. I would like to thank the city of Tiersee Water Department and all the people that were involved in the water leak that we had Sunday morning. I guess it was at 6th and Pine, was taken care of very quickly. The fire department, again, Thank you, Paul Tooley. The water was available out at the Fair Barn for those that needed it. I didn't hear of any real critical circumstances. I know the hospital and the nursing home were out of water for a short time, but the water came back on quickly. So again, thank you. And basically, I would like to thank the police department and all the businesses and the organizations that provided the free meals, breakfast, and commemorated our police department. And that's all I have, other than I'd like to wish everybody a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend. Stay warm, because it has been cool. All right, the next item on our agenda this morning is executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? That was quick. We have two items. Item J1, real property, various properties pursuant to 1015-1H8, and item J2, litigation HL, Hot Springs Land Development pursuant to 1015-1H7. And I do have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Whitehead.
Aye.
Honorable Kathy Clark.
Aye.
Honorable Rob Fischler.
Aye.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Aye.
Honorable George Chakidy.
Aye.
We are now in executive session as soon as the room clears.
I'll be right back.